Hello, everyone, and welcome to another LSE Transfer Room stream. My name's Damon. We have got Nathan, Andrew with us today, and hopefully we could be getting Neil as well, but he'll be coming in a couple of minutes' time. Transfer window, boys. Transfer window. Alexis McAllister already through the door, 36 million. Who next? Who do you think? First and foremost, Nathan, how are you doing? First time
I'm
on
good,
stream
mate.
with me.
Good to be on for the first time. I've been watching some of the lives and some of the videos. Been in the WhatsApp chat for a while now. It's good to get on, yeah.
And how about you, Drew? How's it going over there?
Doing good. I'm keeping one eye on the U21 Euros to see if any of our, Turan goes off on a blazer and tries to up 10 million on the price tag or something.
It's a lose-lose situation, isn't it, Drew? If he plays well, then
Getting a good player
it's
potentially.
like another 20 million on, and FSG ain't paying that. And if you don't play well, then it's like, are we hyping up a player there that just doesn't suit us?
Yeah.
We'll get on to transfers now. Then we'll start talking. We'll continue with the midfield and Gabri Veiga as such. According to Oscar Mendes, who is a Vigo journalist, so he knows quite a bit. He said that the release clause is 40 million euros, which is about 35 million pounds. But Liverpool are ready to offer a contract. But are they going to get in ahead of Chelsea? That's the question. Chelsea will pay up the money, Nathan.
Yeah.
Will Liverpool pay up the money for that sort of player?
I'm going to be realistic with you and don't think we do. At the start of the window, I think everyone was optimistic with, the links with. Yeah, we'll go back a little bit before the window started. So everyone obviously thought Jude Bellingham's going to happen. He's got pictures hugging Trent and Henderson. His dad's a Liverpool fan. Everything seems to be in the stars for it all to work. Fast forward to maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago, we find out that's not happening because Klopp and SFG want to go and buy 3 midfielders instead of 1. We signed Alexis for we don't even know what the actual fee is, do we? But around 30-40 million. And now we're getting told that we might be getting Thuram, depending on what goes on with the Euros and 21 Euros and how well we can get a deal sorted for that. That's meant to be quite advanced in terms of with the player. And we're getting told that could also be it. But I don't know what to expect because one journalist, because I'd say that we are quite lucky to say that now, as football fans, there is a lot of journalists out there you could say don't really have good information, but there's a lot that do have good information. We're getting fed a lot of news from a lot of different places. So, local journalists likes of was it Neil Jones was saying that we're interested in said player, then you'll get James Pearce saying that we're not interested in him, and then so and so. I don't know what's going to happen. I'd love us to go and buy. I'm absolutely fine, by the way, with not buying Bellingham and going to get 3 really good young midfielders. I think that's fine. But if we say we get McAllister and then go and buy Thuram and don't get any other midfielders, I just don't get it. And I'm not going to sit here and make it about the ownership, but I think we need owners that are going to want to go out and capitalise on, I think, a summer where there's a lot of midfielders available at a reasonable price. How about you?
I mean, the word reasonable is exactly the term to use, mate, because we're not asking for these like Rice, Bellingham, £100 million, £80 million players. Yeah. So, but it's hard to really put the blame onto like Klopp, because Klopp only has a list and there's a recruitment staff. But when it's given a budget where is it Neil Jones said that we're possibly going for Thuram and then that's it. It depends on budget regarding defender and midfielder.
Yeah.
Why are we working like that, mate? Why are we working like that?
I seen a stat the other day, or like a figure that since 2019, Arsenal spent something like north of 500 million or something, and I don't know exactly what our figure is, but it's a lot less than that in terms of, I think ours is like 300 million, and we've been fed this information for so long that we couldn't spend money previously because we weren't getting Champions League football regularly. We are now doing that. I know this season is an anomaly and it's not going to happen. Obviously, it's too late now because we're going into the Europa League. And then we start get fed the information that we've had the stadium, we've had the training ground upgrade and all that type of stuff. But we're in a position now where we've paid a lot of that off. We're in a position where last season for the first time I think ever we've surpassed Man United in terms of income for the calendar year. We can talk about Man City's income left, right, and centre all the time you want. but you know, we're earning a similar amount to them. I don't get how we can't go out and spend money, and we're sitting there trying to figure out whether we can spend 30 million on one player or 30 million on another, or instead of going to just get both. Like you said before, we're not saying go and get Declan Rice. We're going even Casado. Casado's probably available for 70 million, and for me, looks like someone that could be a generational talent. We get it. We're not going to do that to Liverpool. We don't do that. I know people will say you've signed Van Dijk and Alisson, but I just don't get why we just seem to be like penny picking when we're trying to sign players that we need to buy. We can't make the same mistake what we made last summer. Signing one midfielder or even two this summer might be a problem.
And Drew, regarding, I think I want to go back up this quote up here. And it said, oops, 1 second. It says here, Gravenberch, Kone, Thuram and Veiga. Order yours. Which ones are your preferences going into the next few weeks?
For me, out of that list, number one is Thuram. I think we've been missing legs in the midfield. It's not a secret. We've talked about it on the stream before, in the chat before. We never really replaced Genie when all of them. Henderson's legs have gone, and a lot of Klopp's midfield was defined by that running legs and being able to get box to box, cover on defense, and offer something on offense. And we seem to have lost that. And Thuram just checks all those boxes, and he's a physical presence. He's with 6'4", he can run, he's good with the ball. So I think he can do a job on both ends of the pitch, and no matter what, he's number one. And I think at the point, we were talking about on the stream the other day, where the next midfielder I don't expect to come in right away and like fit right into the team, because I think that would be awkward if we just started with 3 new midfielders that we got from this past summer. I think we still got Fabinho, who showed that he could potentially get back to his old good form. Don't want to stifle Bajcetic's growth in the team. I want to see him more. I know Europa League will help with some of those players, but I think the Thuram goes straight in, McAllister goes straight in, and then maybe the third person is someone that Klopp can work with a bit, because traditionally he takes time to bed in players to the team. I really like Gravenberch, but I'm going to go with Kone, because I think he still provides those legs and gets in there and gives us what we need, what we're missing. But probably for me, it'd be Thuram, Kone, Gravenberch, Veiga. Jay was talking about Veiga yesterday and said all good things, but for me, I think Kone and Thuram are the legs that we need in the midfield.
Neil, how are you doing, mate? I ain't seen you in a long time. Welcome back to our stream for a start off. Give me your thoughts on Thuram. Is he number one for you? A lot of people saying he's number one. You're muted, mate.
Yes, absolutely. I think Drew outlined a lot of the reasons why he would be the number one choice. I think physicality is something that we've been massively missing. So for me, he is number one. I'd love Kone as well. My only slight concern is about the 6 role, what we're going to do in terms of the 6 role. So we're banking on Fabinho coming back to form, I think. Whether Bajcetic is going to be considered as a 6 or an 8, I'm not sure. So if we do go down the route of a Thuram or Kone, are we going to look to Kone to become, someone that plays in a 6 role? So that's my only concern. But Thuram, Kone, my first 2 choices.
We've got a little bit of sound back. I don't know if anyone's sound is giving a bit of an echo.
Mine seems fine.
Yeah, I keep hearing people come back. Anyway, let's go on to another player that has been linked with us in today's reports, and it's a shocking one, if I'm honest, Drew. An absolute shocking one. I can't believe that this even is a report. Federico Chiesa for Juventus. 35 million Liverpool preparing a bid for, according to Giovanni Aldanese, I think it is. He works for Sport Italia. 35 million we're preparing, but Juventus value him at £51 million. Will we ever pay that for a right winger that we clearly don't need?
Yeah, I think that's the case. We don't need him, and other positions have to be sorted first. Like it's a must that we sort out the midfield and then potentially center back as well. With the fact that we have injury-prone center backs, and definitely need someone who could potentially step up there. But I love Chiesa though. His World Cup was absolutely fantastic, and I know you shouldn't base everything off a World Cup, but he just seems that kind of player that's really hungry to do well. He's confident, tricky player, can assist and score. So those are the kind of rumors that turn my head and make me wish we kind of lock that down. But at the same time, we don't need him. 35 million, if that's a realistic possibility, which isn't the case, then sure. But it's not something I think we should be turning our heads toward at this point when we haven't locked down the positions that we need yet.
Neil, I want to give you an hypothetical here. Let's say we get 3 midfielders, a defender. What price range would you accept Chiesa? What is acceptable for you?
So if we go back to after the Euros, where he was outstanding for Italy, we were being quoted 100 million euros, I think, at that time for him, and he was an outstanding player. Obviously, he's had injury problems since, which has probably hampered his progress a little bit. I think 30 to 35 million euros is as far as I would go. He may be worth a little bit more, but I just don't see us spending a lot of money on another forward. So I think we've got five forwards that we're going to work with. We probably need a sixth, but I don't think we're going to spend big money. So 30 to 35 million for me would be the limit. There's other players. We've got this Arda Güler from Fenerbahce, who looks an outstanding talent. 17 million euros, I think, release clause.
Yeah,
I'd rather take a punt on someone like that.
I mean, like you said, injury prone, and when Liverpool bring injury prone players to here, we suffer. We suffer. I mean, we did it with Keita, did it with even Thiago. As far as Thiago, even though Thiago gives us summer when he does play, it's rarely he plays, and that's the problem. We can't rely on that anymore, can we? Nathan, is Chiesa up there for you?
It's interesting that we're all talking about how much we would pay players.
I think he's a good player, yeah. I agree with the injury record. It's not something that we should. I don't know what it is for. It could be the way the training regime we've got, but he just seems to get a lot of players that get injured. I don't know whether it is. I wouldn't even say that we've played very high tempo football for the last 12 to 18 months, so I don't think you can blame that as much. As you've mentioned before, though, go back to the Euros. You're looking at a €100 million player. One of the things I think we are quite short on is a right winger, because as much as Salah's an absolute beast, and he seems to just be able to stay fit all the time, and he looks like he's keeping himself in the shape of a player that's going to be able to play until mid to high 30s. I do think that we do need another forward on that side, but there's not a chance in the world that SFG are going to go and spend 30, 40 million on a player when they've just spent 60 to 80 million, depending on what it ends up being for Núñez. 40 to 50 million for Jota, and the same for Diaz in the space of 2 years. Just can't see it. We'd also be silly to spend £30 million of the budget when there's players like Gravenberch and Kone not available, which we all know that we're screaming out for, and we need to sign that next. We need to sign that next player that's going to take us up again. He's a good player, but I'd take him, but it wouldn't be someone I'd be looking at buying now. No.
See, Reverend Knight FC says I paid 51 million for a series club, but we aren't. In terms of that, mate, I think that would be paid if we were to get 2 free midfielders and a defender. Then I sort of agree with you. I'd pay the 35, 50 million for someone like him, just because Salah's not going to be here forever. And we do need to start looking at Salah's replacement sort of now. Even if we're not getting him this summer, we need to be looking at least.
Yeah. The injury record takes it away, though, I think.
It does, yeah. And that's where I think if the report is true that Liverpool are preparing a bid for 35 million, then maybe that's as far as they go.
If Liverpool was serious, they'd go and throw 100 million at Saka right now. That's serious. Not going to get
that. You know what? I've been talking to a mate about Arsenal. He's an Arsenal fan, and I've been talking about him. We should have gone for Saka 2-3 years ago when we were up there top.
He showed the other day for England as well.
I thought he could be the perfect Salah replacement at some point, and that link up with Trent in the last 2 games, it was it's a dagger in the heart.
Yeah, 100%.
Drew, let's go on to defence. We've talked about Veiga, we've talked about Chiesa. Defence, David Lynch, who's the Football Insider Merseyside reporter, has said we're 100% signing a defender. Do you believe him?
I don't know about 100% with FSG, but I think we need a center back at this point because we're talking about it the other day, but we have Matip, Konate, and Gomez as our center backs, alongside Van Dijk. And, even Van Dijk, we know he got injured. That serious injury doesn't tend to get little knocks here and there, but Gomez, Matip, and Konate are all known to be out of the side for at least a couple months in a season. So Van Dijk had to work with like a chop and change partner for the entire of last season. And, rumors that Matip might be leaving. But regardless, I think we need someone that we can start to rely on coming in, at least as third choice, because for some reason we have an injury crisis every year. And center back is definitely a position that we need to solidify going forward.
Neil, Drew just said we get an injury crisis every year. Do you feel deja vu?
Yeah. And I think that for me, it's as big as the transfer dealings that we do is trying to eliminate the injuries that we seem to get. We seem to get an unprecedented number of muscle injuries in particular, which, other clubs don't seem to get. So I think after the season we won the league, we had a real bad injury problem. It was the centre of defence, it was the centre of midfield as well. Then we were okay for the season where we won the 2 cups, and then this year's just been horrendous again. So it does feel like deja vu. I don't know whether we're learning lessons about whether it's our training, whether it's our recovery. I don't know. But for me, getting that right is as important as signing the right players as well.
I mean, I know you write every day like myself, and do you feel like you're writing the same reports as last year? Do you feel like you're copying and pasting a lot?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, and what I don't understand is that players finish games, and then the next game they're not available, and you don't see any noticeable problems at the end of a game. But we quite often there's 2 players that have picked up an injury in training, and as you say, you are always writing about people picking up mainly hamstring injuries, some thigh injuries, some calf problems as well. So I do feel like that, yeah.
And I think it's the same with transfers as well. I just think that we're going over and over. It's just different players. And there seems to be running out of words, Nathan, this time. There's monitoring, there's next summer, there's all sorts of interested. I've seen it all, I've written it all. And I've seen new phrases this season, surprisingly, and I didn't think they'd get away with it, but they are doing. What do you think we're going to get by the end of the window? Do you think we're going to get 3 midfielders, or do you think it is going to be the 2 that's being reported at the moment?
I genuinely think we won't. I think it'll be 2 midfielders and a centre back. I don't know what centre back we're going to go for because I still don't know what we're going to do next season. Everyone's now got this plan in their head that we're going to carry on doing what we did at the end of last season and play Trent as like basically a second 6 and a inverted full back. There's been rumours of us going for the left-sided centre back, and then there's been quite heavy links in Germany coming out saying that we're looking at Pavards. I don't know. I don't know what to expect because I feel like before this season just gone, I think we would all agree in saying, maybe a little bit before that, we have been pretty much the model of going to buy players and doing a certain thing a certain way. Done it quite well. It's worked. We've managed to win everything in that 5-6 year period. While literally only really pulling the trigger for big players a couple of times in like Van Dijk and Henderson. But now we're starting to see that magic of Jurgen Klopp and the recruitment team only go so far. We do need to buy these players. I'll be perfectly honest with you. I get I'm not the biggest fan of Curtis Jones and Harvey Elliott. I think they're good players. The only way I think Liverpool buy more than 2 midfielders is if we sell someone. I don't see us buy not just because I don't think we need to. In a sense, I'll be all right with 2 midfielders. 3 midfielders, I'd be really happy. If we get Thuram and McAllister, I'm not going to be mad about it because I do believe that you have to give Bajcetic, Curtis Jones, Harvey Elliott chances, and I do still think Thiago, 15 games a season, is still very good.
Can I ask you a question, Nathan? Would Pep Guardiola be like this?
I don't know. Probably not. I don't know. It's impossible to compare the way we're ran compared to City, though, isn't it? The way I think he's been given the luxury of being able to, Bernardo Silva.
Chances, yeah.
Every season, Bernardo Silva seems to feel like he's going to leave, and Gundogan's left this season, and Taylor left last season. It just seems like once Pep's been told by the player, or he's shown a little bit of sign of not being loyal to the team, you're quite happy to just get rid of them and bring someone else in. If an offer come in tomorrow for £30 million for Harvey Elliott, I'll probably accept it. If an offer for 20 million came in for Curtis Jones, I'll probably accept it, and then I'd go and buy someone else. But then you've got to look at the homegrown quota, not just for this season, but going forward. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I don't think we'll buy as many as what we all want, but I hope we do.
I'm glad to see there, Ken Patrick, that regarding the Koku thing, he has gone to Benfica, but Liverpool were in quite advanced talks with him, apparently, according to reports. In 1908 it was, who was a news site in Feyenoord itself, and they reported that we were close, a really, really advanced stage with Koku, but we chose to go for McAllister. So there's no, we paid 36 million for McAllister, and it'd have been about 30 million euros for Koku. So yeah, we decided against that and we got McAllister. But let's go on to you mentioned defenders there, Nathan. Drew, there's 2 defenders that also David Lynch came up with, and that's Gonçalo, Inácio, and Mickey van de Ven. Both left centre backs. Is that exactly the type of player that we need?
I don't know much about Inácio, to be honest. Van de Ven looks a little more, Klopp model. I think he's got more experience in Bundesliga, which I put higher up than Portuguese league. I think Jay yesterday had a really good shout with maybe a punt for Bastoni on Inter. I think that'd be a quality signing, but I don't know. I think, yeah. Like, as soon as you said that, I was like, that would be perfect. But sorry, you're gonna say something, Dan?
The special guest that we have coming on the podcast that I have interviewed on Monday, the podcast is due out tomorrow. He agrees with you, Bastoni, and he's a very special. He's a legendary commentator, put it that way. So he knows his football.
Bastoni's on the level of Man City going to buy Ruben Diaz. That's how good I think he is. Anyway, it's a signing that he could be the next Van Dijk for us. That big.
Is it that big of an impact? That Van Dijk impact as well as
I think it will be, yeah, but I don't think it'll be not initially. No, Van Dijk coming in was Van Dijk
top
straight away.
Carl Jones, yeah.
Yeah, but I think Bastoni's just that good. I think he played in the final. He's playing like a left wing back, kind of, wasn't he, at times? And he just looked fantastic. He looks so good on the ball, but he looks so good defensively as well. Looks like he'd fit perfect into Premier League football.
Neil, Nathan just said about him playing left back as well as left centre defence. Every single player we seem to be linked to is versatile, and that is Jurgen Klopp down to a T, isn't it?
It is, and I kind of understand it with the left-sided role, because in the back of my mind, I could see them selling Tsimikas. And I think whilst everyone's become quite comfortable with Tsimikas as the backup left back, if you've got someone that can play either left centre back or left back, then possibly he's surplus to requirements, and probably you could get a decent fee for him. So yeah, as you say, they are the players we sign are versatile. It could be a left-sided centre-back and that can play left-back. McAllister, I think, is very versatile in midfield. I think he can almost play any midfield role. So, yeah, it's typical Jurgen Klopp, buy versatile players that he can mould.
Neil, do you think the recent links to Bundesliga players because of the George Schmack thing?
I think there's an element of that. So even, I mean, you normally see it as soon as it came out that he was coming to the club as sporting director. You saw the links to Bundesliga players like Mickey van der Ven, and that one's even more kind of high up on the radar because obviously he's a Wolfsburg player, and I think Schmadtke bought him to Wolfsburg. So I think there's an element of that. But if I look at someone like Van der Ven, we are probably looking for a left-footed central defender that can possibly play left back. He's 22 years old. Will probably play for the Dutch national team. So he is the kind of player that you think that we are likely to target. So that one may be not so coincidental. Others may be so.
Regarding this year's transfer budget, then Neil, what are you expecting?
I'm trying not to expect anything.
I think that's the way you should go. You know, that's the way I've gone for the last 2-3 years, and I've been banging on about it for 2-3 years. And to be honest, I am tired of it. But
yeah,
I think someone's got to bang on about it.
Yeah, I think we could. It could send you crazy quite quickly if you got huge expectations. It's interesting actually that we're talking about players that we want to sign, and we're all doing it based on who we think we might be able to afford. So if I was given the option of a left-sided centre back, I'd say Bastoni, but everyone's probably thinking, oh, he's too expensive. So
no, but Neil, is he too expensive?
Well, money don't need.
Can we afford him? Is it just we're choosing not to afford him? That's the question.
Maybe so. I don't know. What I think is the manager needs to be back this summer, and that needs to be probably 5 or 6 players. And if he isn't, then I'll be disappointed. I think it's early days at the moment. I think McAllister's a fantastic signing. I think it's a good price that we got him for. But I want to see at least 3 to 4 players follow him in to the club. Otherwise, I will feel that we've been let down a bit on what is a summer that is critical to the club going forward, based on what we haven't done in the past. And I think
it's probably the most important summer since Klopp's come in.
Yeah, I agree.
Drew, is 5 or 6 perfect for you, or do we need? And what are you expecting in terms of the players? Forget the budget. How many players do you think we're going to bring in? Is it the Neil Jones, 2 midfielders and a defender?
No, I think 2 defenders or 2 midfielders, 1 defender. I think Neil was pointing to that earlier. That seems reasonable. You know, maybe there's a youngster in there that we get for a few million that I don't really count since the future buy. But I'm not putting it up to FSG to make 5, 6, 50 million around that kind of deals this summer. I don't think we've ever seen that with them, but they definitely do need to buy. I've said it before. It's like we drove this car that had over 300,000 miles on it and just wanted it to get through one more season. And instead of buying new parts, like in the past 2 seasons that could have solved these issues, the car broke down last year, and now we have to replace multiple parts, and that can't be avoided. Like that's where protesting comes out if we only have like McAllister at the end of the window.
Just out of curiosity, before we go on to anything else, if someone said to you right now, you can have Kone, Thuram, and McAllister, or any alternative to the other 2 before you got McAllister, you can buy 2 more midfielders, but you had to loan out Stefan Bajcetic as like the part of it. Would you take it, or would you rather keep Bajcetic in and give him game time?
I think it depends who, Nathan.
Yeah. Okay.
Let's
Barella. Let's say it's Thuram and Kone. What would you do?
Neil?
It's a tough one because he looks like he's got everything he needs to come on to be a good player. If it was a Premier League loan, he needs to be playing at that level. If he wasn't going to be, it all depends on what our plans are for him. If he's not going to be a regular starter, he will benefit as an 18-year-old to go out and get regular football at the top level, which is possibly what we should have done with Fabio Carvalho. So it's a tricky one. If he's not going to be a starter for us or close to the team, then yes, I would consider it.
Nathan, I'm going to reverse that back onto you then regarding the Bajcetic thing, because Bajcetic is one of our best players last season. I know he played a little stint, and he got injured after that, and he sort of transformed our midfield. Our midfield were terrible until he came in, which was ridiculous. An 18-year-old to do that.
Yeah.
Is there anyone that you're willing to drop instead of him? If we were to bring another midfielder out in the squad, would you drop Henderson? Would you drop that sort of player?
If Sunderland coming in off of Liverpool 10 million or 5 million for Henderson, now I'd sell him. Because I don't like him. I think he's great. For me, I've been through the era of Gerrard being Liverpool captain. I think Henderson's a better captain than him. I love Henderson. He's a legend. But we've all seen last season, not at the level that we need. We've all got this big assumption now because Milner's left, he's going to become the new Milner. Jordan Henderson can't play right back and left back. Milner could. He's not. He can't do that role. I personally, the question I asked you, I think Bajcetic is a lot of people don't know before he started playing for the first team. The centre back. It'd be interesting to see what would go on. Maybe get utilised in that position as well, and because he's very good on the ball. The goal against Newcastle, where he does that little turn, great on the ball. It's crazy because he still looks underdeveloped. He's still quite small, slim, and scrawny, but he's still quite strong on the ball and football brains.
He's robust, isn't he? He's very robust.
Yeah, he's a very good player. And I think once he fills out a little bit and gets a bit bigger, I think he'd be a great player. Like same as Neil, I'd only loan him out if guaranteed 30 first team games next season, playing for someone that's going to be, playing at a decent level. Because I think he's good enough to, especially based off last season, push like Fabinho and that.
I think the likes of Bajcetic and Fabinho being able to play at centre back as well helps with the Trent development, because Trent is new role where he comes into midfield and Canate pushes onto the right. We need someone to drop back in.
Yeah.
And that Bajcetic and that Fabinho, I mean, look how good Fabinho was in that injury prone season. And at centre back, he was probably the best centre back all season.
Yeah.
And we need to utilise that now. We need to utilise their ability to play that, getting the best out of Trent.
Yeah.
Whether Trent moves into midfield, that's a different question completely. That's a different conversation to be had. But at the moment, Jurgen Klopp doesn't seem to be putting him into midfield straight away. He seems to be just playing that adapted role.
One thing I will say is, sorry, just to interrupt, towards the end of last season, Fabinho massively benefited from Trent dropping into that 6th role with him as well. Over the last 6 weeks of the season, Fabinho was not at the level that he was in 2020 and stuff like that, but he played at a decent level. He looked what he looked like 18 months ago when he was still playing at a very good level. I do think that he's himself last season. He's massively played so poorly, but having someone in the midfield that he just looks so much more confident on the ball as well when Trent was like close to him and next to him. It's a weird one because I think if the season ended how it was going up until start of March, February, I think these conversations now and the outcry of buying players would be a lot worse. And I think the fact that Curtis Jones ended the season well, Bajcetic had a great run for a few months. I don't know what it is. It's everything seems to fall into place for SFG at the time when we need to buy players.
Has it glossed over a lot? Do you think?
I think so, yeah. But I don't know whether, as fans, the recency bias of now people think Newcastle are going to go and get top 4 next season, and so on and so on. Like I was looking at the stats a couple of weeks ago, Liverpool over the second half of the season. I don't know whether if they finished that way, but up until the last game of the season, had the second most points in the second half of the season. So it's interesting to see what we do and where we go on from that based on some of the players that, if you said in January someone comes in for 30 million for Fabinho, 99% of Liverpool fans would have sold him. I think they probably would still now, but you can't get rid of everyone all at once and just completely change and bring in loads of 22, 23-year-old midfielders and expect it to just work. I think you do need the likes of Fabinho and Thiago to nurture the players and give them a little bit of experience as well.
Whilst we're here, guys, I'm going to ask people to make sure they like and subscribe, because we will be doing videos as often as we can. Every day if we can. There's always going to be transfer targets, no matter how many times me and Neil write interested or monitored and things like that. There's always going to be transfer targets, always going to be transfer news. We might not get them over the line, more likely to not get them over the line because we're not willing to pay. But there's going to be news. There's going to be updates. There's going to get some fun interviews going on. We're going to get some fun videos going on. I've got a special podcast coming out hopefully tomorrow with I'm going to reveal Clive Tilsley, which I did on Monday. That's just getting edited and going up. So yeah, we're going to be here for you guys as much as we can, unlike John Henry. Neil, Jurgen Klopp, will he ever manage Germany? We had this conversation just before stream. Do you think he'll ever manage another club, or do you think he'll go into international duty after Liverpool?
It's a difficult one. I don't think he'll leave before the end of the contract. I don't think he would do that. He seems very committed to Liverpool and seems to love it, which is great. I would think he would, if let's assume in 2026 is the end for him at Liverpool, I'd expect him to take a break, and then I could see him managing the national team rather than another club. I think he's been at two clubs where with Dortmund and Liverpool where there's a lot of soul at the club, and I think anywhere else that he moves to now, I think he would find it difficult to adapt and find that same relationship that he's built at Liverpool, to be honest. So I think let's say it's 2026. I think a year off, and then possibly start looking at the Germany job, depending on the timing around when the qualifiers are for the next big tournament. But I can't see him at another club because I can't see him managing to build that same feeling that he has done at Liverpool.
He's fallen in love with Liverpool the way he did with Mainz and the way he did with Dortmund.
Yeah.
Does it make sense, Drew, then with Germany? Because Germany is like it's his own country anyway. He didn't need to try to fall in love or anything like that. He's already fallen in love with them.
Yeah, I think that makes the most sense for me. I also hope that he renews his contract when it gets to it. I think the fact that he reached kind of the end of this iteration of the team that he built, Salah, Mane, Firmino, those kind of years, Wijnaldum, I don't think he achieved as much as he would have liked. I think one Champions League, one Premier League. He won the lot. You can't take that away. But I think the kind of dynasty of winning, 1 point off in 2 seasons for additional Premier League titles. I think that if we start pushing again for the title and winning more trophies with this new iteration and this rebuild coming in, he might want to see it out. Like he might want to give it another go. I know he's talked about how exhausting the job can be, how demanding it is, but it's kind of like it seems like his family backs him as well. His wife was the one who was like, "You're not leaving Liverpool at this time. You're here longer than that." So I think if he has the support of the family and still has the energy and the drive, and I think that can come from building a new young team. Like he could want to see these players really grow, and if we start winning trophies, I could see him extending this contract again. And I really hope that's the case because, like you said, I don't think you get another club that has the family that Liverpool does. I think that's kind of the peak as a manager. And, you look at ex-Liverpool managers, Brendan Rodgers, I don't think, he's going back to Celtic because I think that's like the closest thing he's gotten to Liverpool. He achieved with Leicester, but I just don't see anyone moving on from Liverpool really getting that same feeling from a club. So I hope he extends his contract. I hope he stays way beyond the current one. And Germany might be, kind of the retirement years.
Nathan, if he does go to a club and he speaks with the owners in obviously his interview, what budget is he asking for?
For Liverpool or for somebody else?
For someone else. Someone that's willing to give him a budget.
I don't know. It's again.
Do you think he's happy to work with restraints again? Put it that way.
I think he is, yeah, because I think he's the type of manager that I think he gets a bit of a kick out of trying to do something with players that other people
being the underdog. Yeah.
Yeah, I think he likes it. Like again, I think being from the city, I think Liverpool's quite a socialist city, and he comes across like quite socialist and like down to earth and quite like a man of the people type thing. And I think, I'm not saying other managers are not like that, but I think you can relate. In Germany with Dortmund come across as that type of team in a sense, in that from what I've seen anyway off that. Only one thing I would say in a position where, by the way, I think he could definitely stay on. I think this season there's been a lot of talk about his job and whether he's in a small percentage of Liverpool fans questioning it. Not once have I questioned him at all because we all knew last summer what we needed and what he didn't get given. And there's been obviously a lot of, he looks stressed. He looks old. He looks older. And of course he does. He is getting older. Like it's life. He's been here now for a long time and going to get stressed. But as he said, he's not losing any motivation. He loves doing what he's doing. And he lives for moments where you see him celebrating on a touchdown. He loves the football. You can tell. The only concern I've got is I think it's likely that he could sign a new contract. I think again another different conversation. But the amount of money that's getting pumped in from like the Middle East now and Saudi and places like that, it wouldn't surprise me if you'd end up seeing like, I'm not saying Klopp would do it, but it's an experience for him. I think that he could be someone that could maybe look at going to that. I think the Germany job's too early for him. I think that he's someone that might be completely wrong, managing to close to his 70s. I think going to do something else in like the Saudi League, or maybe even going back to Germany and taking over main. And I don't know. I'd love to see him stay at Liverpool. If he was to leave, I'd love to see what Xabi Alonso is going to do and see where he's because someone that I've been looking at him. Job he's already done at Leverkusen, fantastic. I just think he'll do really
well. Jurgen Klopp's agent, Matt Kosick, has actually said that Jurgen has a long-term contract at Liverpool and Germany has a coach. So it's very likely that he's not going to leave anytime soon. And I think I agree with you, boys. I can't see this being his only deal at Liverpool after. And is it 26 his deal finishes?
Yeah.
I can see him extending that. I can. And it all depends on the ownership as well. If FSG either leave or at least put a bit more money into transfers and things like that, I think he'd become more relaxed and more willing to stay anyway. We saw how excited he got before the end of the was it the calendar year last year? All the talk about getting new ownership, maybe an investment. You see how excited he was in like press conferences. He'll beat one in, and towards the end of January, where the transfer windows weren't happening, the investment had gone down, the talk of selling had gone down. He seemed a man in a shadow of himself. Do you think deep down he wants a new ownership, Nathan?
100%, 1,000,000%. And I don't think it's like we say, we're not asking to be a team who goes to buy 4 or 5, £80 million players. We just want reasonable owners. And while I'll sit here now, I'm personally, I am SFG out. I won't criticise them completely. They have done well with the developing stuff that obviously we've seen with United, the Glazers, like the training ground, like they haven't done, but 100% would welcome new owners. Like, I don't think he's someone that would sit there and not be. I think he definitely does like the right of trying to get a player better than what they are and things like that. Likes to be the underdog, but I think he's at a point now where he knows. Go back to 18 months ago, or even 3 years ago. If SFG would have just put up last season, Liverpool would not last season. Well, the season just gone, the one before. Liverpool would. I personally think Liverpool would have done the unthinkable. Do you know what I mean?
I think if we got a centre midfielder that summer, I think we'd win the quad.
It's just crazy to think like the little amount of money that we after winning the league and after winning the Champions League, the little amount of money that we've spent. Like, I don't get it. Like, just sick of seeing like one minute you've got some journalists saying like, Liverpool have got a war chest for the summer, and then all of a sudden, it's not that much now. We don't know what actually going to spend. We didn't actually say how much the figure was going to be, and this and that. I'd hope we get to a point eventually in his tenure that he is allowed to go and just spend some money and try and go for everything again one more time at least, or on several occasions, because I think he deserves it. He deserves to have a little bit of an easier job, because I think been the best manager we've had in my lifetime anyway, and probably pretty much the same with you. Maybe I don't know how old you are, but
I'm 90 years old, mate. I'm 90 years old. I've seen Shank.
He's a legend to the club, isn't it? We all love him. Like he's someone that is embedded into the club now, and I hope he gets to be able to job a little bit more. And I think having that more money and being able to spend it will make it easier for him.
Neil, as a writer like myself, you see every day, you know, these journalists putting these things out with war chest and things like that, and reports close to the club, reports across from, you know, close to other clubs and things like that. These reports don't lie, do they? I mean, especially when you see reports, there are some incredible journalists and you don't trust them, but when it's multiple journalists coming out with the same thing, say like I think it was early on in the year, that were saying we'll get the war chest. It wasn't just one journalist, was it? It was a few saying that we're going to get 200 million spent and things like that. So I'm saying, so when there's a few reporters, Neil, coming out, it sticks, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. And that was the problem. Is these things come out when things haven't gone particularly well, so.
And that's PR.
Yeah, you do get the PR element that these things comes out. Yeah, but people remember it, and everyone's now expecting them to spend 250 million this summer, which hopefully they will do. So, yeah,
they will spend it, but they'll spend it on a new yacht, I presume.
Yeah,
not on us.
I'm not sure new owners is the best thing for Klopp. I think he actually gets on quite well with the owners from what we see. Let's be honest, he's not at one point really come out and thrown them under the bus over the.
But can he though, Neil?
I think he's a strong character.
He has said slight digs.
Yeah, he has, but it's been slight. I don't think he's come out and really blasted them. And I think if he felt that he should do, I think he would do. Maybe he's just a very good employee. I don't know. However, something like someone buying a stake in the club with a view to taking over would probably be a bit more beneficial to Klopp, I would think, because it would give him the funds that he needs for the rebuild, which he may not get with the ownership as it is at the moment. But I do think there seems to be a decent working relationship there, which counts for a lot, because you could get a new owner in and they might not want him. So
might want someone younger, might need to want one of the Nagelsmann or someone like that.
Exactly. Even when FSG came in, they wanted a young manager, and when they got Rodgers, it was between him and Roberto Martinez as to who would get the job, because they targeted the younger managers. So I'm not convinced new ownership is the answer, the best thing for him, but maybe minority investment is.
You're a bit closer to Mr. Henry over there, Drew, than we are. Regarding his other clubs as well, Pittsburgh Penguins and the Boston Red Sox, how are they feeling over there? Are you getting any sort of elements in mainstream news over there and the media over there? How are they feeling as fans over there? Did they feel the same way? They feel frustration? I know the people I've spoken to do, but you see probably more than me.
I know, I don't know much about the Penguins, but I know that the Red Sox fans were in particular very upset with FSG ownership over the recent years, because American sports is very different too. There's no relegation, there's drafts, so there's incentives to finish lower, or there's rewards for finishing lower in your league. It's I do not like that setup, but it's almost like a yo-yo effect with the Red Sox. The FSG kind of did what they did for Liverpool. They brought the first World Series title back to them in, almost 80, 90 years. They brought that team back up, won the World Series, got them over the hump. And then they did it again a few years later, but it was kind of like a yo-yo. I think they might have done it 3 times, but it's one season they're really great and they push the next season, and then they drop off in their last place for a couple seasons. They're starting to build back up again this year. They're having a decent season. There's some promising prospects, but I'm conflicted or torn between. I agree with Neil. I can see where you and Nathan come from, because it's frustrating. I think it almost just feels like a neglect, and that's what Red Sox feels. It's certain years, it just seems like FSG doesn't even care. They're like, no, we're not going to even pay attention to you these 2 years. We got you your trophies. You should be able to do the same thing with what you have. And I think that's the difference when you see squads like Man City winning and then reinvesting when they win, or buying those players. It's not a time to sit back and relax. But I also think there's a dynamic with Klopp where I know, we know in the past where he was very particular about who he wanted. Van Dijk, like it's like he didn't get him in the summer to kind of blow up. It's like, no, that's our guy. We're going to get him in the winter. You know, Allison, similar-ish. And then like Tchouaméni and Bellingham. I think there's kind of a hard lesson learned there that you can't just have one or two players' names on your transfer list and be like, we're going for them. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. I'm buoyed by that. Like when we see the offers this year, what is it with Koku? I don't know how to pronounce that name, but the fact that we were looking at that far down the list or having that many options kind of was like, okay, maybe we learned from you don't just have two names of who you want to get. So I think and then how Klopp took over last season, made the adjustments, put Trent in that inverted right back role and kind of tinkered with it. I think FSG does give him there's full trust in Klopp. Like I think there's a lot of the fan base that was calling for Klopp to get out, or at least Twitter, which I wouldn't put the highest class of fans, but there was Klopp out for a while, and I think FSG is always backed Klopp in that regards as him being the manager. I think it just needs we're not the rich clubs that spend 200 million every window. I'm curious to see if Arsenal don't get titles or what happens with that if Kroenke just steps off. But I think the model is stable, but we need more attention. And this is the make or break for me for FSG this summer transfer window. And if we get the addressing issues, I think Klopp is the manager to be able to make it work. And then agree with everything Neil said about the transition.
I think I'm a little bit ahead of you in terms of making my decision. I think our make and break last season, I think it was for me last season. And then I questioned him 3 years ago, didn't I, Neil? FSG. I was in the chat all the time. I got quite hounded for it in the chat at times, but I've been adamant. I knew there's something not right about it all, and as Carl said here, we're emotionally and mentally tired about it all. I'm drained. I'm absolutely drained talking about FSG. I've been good at. I feel like I've been good at it for so long that I feel everyone's behind, and they're sort of saying the same thing I've said last season, this season. And I've seen someone say we've got the midfielders again. We've got the amount of midfielders. We don't need more than 2 midfielders. We've got the midfielders here. But this was the same thing that I said last season. We had the amount of midfielders last season, but they weren't good enough.
I think one of the things that we've done wrong as well is we're not getting rid of players when they need to go. I think that's obviously to go away with the ownership a little bit. I said before, 2 midfielders I think would be okay. But I think we need to start selling players. Like I said, Harvey Elliott and Curtis Jones, homegrown. I don't know if they're at that age bracket yet. They should be players that we should, if they're not going to play an important part, we need to get rid of them and move them on. Going back to what Drew said before about you've got to have more than one big target. I think if we had owners that were ambitious, we wouldn't be sitting here saying we need more than one target. We'd go and say Dortmund 4 months ago, here's 100 million, we'll take Bellingham, we'll have him. Here's whatever. I get that we have to be all the time. We haven't done that for ages. People can say we done it with Nunes last season. I don't think that is as much money as what people think when you're looking at
We only spent about 40 million net last season.
Yeah, that's what I mean. But I get it. I understand the arguments of both sides. Like I said, I think in terms of under the stadium and stuff like that and the training facilities, they've done great with that. I'm not going to take anything away from them. They could have been a little bit less penny pinching and put their own money in instead of giving us a loan. I know it was a low interest one, and then we could have still bought players and spent more on the recruitment side. But I don't think it's unreasonable for Liverpool to go out every now and again, every 2 or 3, 4 years, and go and spend big on a big player that Jurgen Klopp wants and needs. We should have got Bellingham last summer. I know everyone was going, Dortmund, we're going to sell. Alan's just left, this and that. Tchouaméni wants to go to Real Madrid. Listen, go and offer him an extra 30 grand a week or something. Don't give Dortmund an extra 10 million or something. Or just say, we'll sign him now and you can keep him on loan for the season. Just get it done. Do you know what I mean?
And then they'll come back at you and say, look, we should be paying that much money for a player like that. We need 3 or 4 players. A club like Liverpool should be able to spend that on the plate and still have money left for 3, 4,
exactly.
more players.
Like look at Arsenal, like I said, 500 million over like the last 4 years or something.
And not only that, there's proof there. But we've spent big on a player like that, like Van Dijk, Alisson. There's proof there of it working. And we need that big impact now. We said it earlier on the stream about Van Dijk made that big impact from top 4 to title contenders. We need that in our midfield right now.
Yeah.
And someone like a Declan Rice, for example, a Barella, for example.
Declan Rice would be fantastic in a Klopp system as well.
That money would be worth 80 million in the end. Declan Rice, what, 23, 24?
Yeah,
he's still got plenty of time. He's dominant in the Premier League, by the way.
Yeah.
In a poor West Ham this side this season. I know it was decent.
I think he had like top 3 for interceptions last season. And that's what we need. We need someone that's going to press and tackle and intercept the ball.
I think that's a mix, though. Yeah. It's a mix though, because you look at like Man U or Chelsea, who buy a lot and then they spend a ton of money, and it doesn't always work out with the players. I think that's where you get
recruitment though. Is that not?
Yeah. I think it's the recruitment, but I still think there was like one thing that I don't think was that Klopp had to figure out was. I think it's often overlooked. I know Pep does it, but he also gets the influx of new players to push the other players around. But once you've won, like you've reached the summit, you have to remotivate yourself to do it again. And I know that sounds easy when you put it in those terms, but you looked at it this season. I felt like, how do you go from challenging from the quadruple to this season? I know a lot of that answer is we didn't reinvest in the midfield. Players retired, injury prone, all that, but the entire team looked off, like mentally off, and you can't.
Injuries didn't help either. People forget that we had a lot of injuries.
Well, I think that's what Klopp, like similar with in what you said, Nathan, about the trust in old players. He was the first one who'd be like giving trust to Ox, giving trust to Keita. Where as much as I liked both those players and the potential they had, as soon as you're injury prone, you're not. You got to go. Like that's the ruthless nature where you can't keep like the Henderson contract. I think we talked about that, Damon and Neil, on a stream a couple years ago, and we were split. But it was kind of like that doesn't make sense to give that contract at that stage. And I think that's something that's Klopp's learned. I think he was done. Like he's shown he's frustrated with players. He's dropped players. I think he's becoming a little more ruthless and learning more on the job. And that's where I think that kind of relationship with the owners, like the owners still need to give more. But for me, that's why, Damon, and you're right about what you said about the midfield. You called it early, and that is right. And that's where I feel like you make the mistake, and this is your chance to rectify it. You should have seen the mistake because we were calling for you needed midfield reinforcements, but now it's blatantly obvious. Here's your chance to show that okay, you screwed up, you dropped the ball, but let's see how you pick it back up. Show us the good faith, put in the money, put in the investment. Klopp has shown that he still can make the managerial adjustments. He can reinvigorate the team. I feel like there was a really learning and growth opportunity with Klopp that he took, and now the owners can like carry that through by investing in the squad. So we'll see.
Neil, what you said there is absolutely spot on regarding the impact of these players that they have on other players as well, and the competition that they need. We saw it when Diaz came in. Mane was poor that first half of that season, and Diaz came in and sort of gave him a kick up the arse, and he dropped it into striker position, didn't Mane? And it was a different player, absolutely different player. Tsimikas did it to Robbo. Robbo was poor. Tsimikas came in. Robbo came back in. It was brilliant. These players need that kick up the backside every now and then, and they need that competition to spur them on. Alex Ferguson did it throughout the 90s, throughout the 90s. He gave people competition. I mean, the 99 winning treble side, what they had back then, they had Solskjaer, Sheringham, Cole, and York as a front four, 2 of them on bench.
Yeah.
You know, it's all about squads winning leagues this season because we can't keep relying on cups all the time. I know we won the league in 2020, but one season's not enough. And this young Klopp's going to be leaving, whether it's 26 or later on. One Premier League, one Champions League is not enough, and we need to give these players that kick up the backside every now and then to go again, to go, bounce back from the quadruple thing. Like I said, we sat still last season. Let's be honest. Last summer we sat still. We bought Núñez. We needed to buy Núñez, by the way, because with no forwards. We sold 3 forwards. 3 forwards went. So we needed to bring Nunez in. We needed to bring Gakpo in because it covered. And Firmino's gone this time. So we've lost 4 forwards in 2 years. So we needed to bring forwards in. But we sat still on the midfield. And we relied on an injury-prone Thiago, relied on an injury-prone Ox, Keita, relied on Henderson, who'd already lost his legs, by the way. Henderson was shit the season before. Fabinho's on the I've always said this, Fabinho's the only surprise for me this season, the way he's played. He's dropped off massive, but I think he's knackered, to be honest.
You seen it towards the end of the previous season with Fabinho as well? Like, probably
slightly, yeah.
Not the season's gone on before. Looked like he was carrying fucking loads of weight around on his neck. He looked absolutely knackered.
But when he plays 1 game a week, as he was towards the end of the season, he's a different player.
Yeah.
And that's where, competition for places, rotational options will get the best or get him back to playing at the level that he needs to. I agree, Damo, that the competition for places is vital. Mane was a great example because arguably he'd been poor for 18 months.
Yeah, he was.
And as you said, when he was stuck central, when Diaz came in, it did make a big difference to him. So, yeah, I think certain players became a little bit complacent, if I'm honest, and they thought, well, I'm going to play regardless. I would put Van Dijk in that category. I would put Robertson in that category. Maybe Henderson to a certain extent. And whereas someone like Salah is able, he's obviously able to motivate himself and get him to that,
Salah's different than the others, isn't he, in a sense? Salah's got that mentality like Messi and Ronaldo.
Yeah,
I'm not saying he's on their level, but he's got that mentality where he believes that he's better than everyone and believes that, like, even towards, like, he put a post up when we didn't get top 4.
Yeah.
I can't remember exactly the word for word, but, like, him say that he was like, utters about it, you know what I mean? Like, it's not good enough for a club like Liverpool and for himself.
Yeah.
And that's what you want to see.
And
you want to be seeing it all the time.
Exactly. But if you've got that inbuilt in you, then great.
Yeah.
But as I say, I was really disappointed with Van Dijk and Robertson last season. And whilst they're fantastic players, maybe a kick up the backside is not the worst thing for them. But to do that, you need to have the quality of player to come in and perform in that position. So competition for places is a must.
I mean, it's got to the point now.
Any hungry squad.
It's got to the point now where players are coming out and saying it, and that's.
I know we need signings.
It's very rare you see players do this. It's very rare to see players do this. I think this is because we're on the edge now of this is make or break this season. Nathan said it earlier, and the boy said it earlier. This season this transfer window is the most important transfer window of Jurgen Klopp era. It's the most important transfer we've had since before Jurgen Klopp. And if we don't get enough players, forget the quality of players as well. We don't get enough players. We've lost 3 midfielders, by the way, in sales. 3 transfers gone. We've lost Firmino and a free transfer gone. So
4 midfielders, I think, because Arthur Melo.
We're counting Arthur.
Water boy.
I don't.
But
I felt sorry for him last season,
I did as well. I
felt sorry for him. Like, just give him 10 minutes a game when we're playing absolutely terrible. Let him have a go.
He was okay at Barcelona. Yeah. But just in terms of the transfer, I know we all want transfers and we all want to spend loads of money on transfer. We did hamstrung ourselves a little bit by giving out those massive contracts. And, when you look at what you're paying for transfers and what you're paying in wages, wages is a significant thing. And we had one of the higher wage bills. Yes, it's performance related. And I think we made bad decisions in some of those contract renewals, which has probably impacted our ability in the transfer market to go out and spend more money. So I think whilst I want to see more money pushed into transfers, I do think we've made bad decisions from a player retention perspective. We had that summer where we gave everyone long-term deals. Yes, we want to reward players, but they become a little bit complacent because of it. Some of them were too old to get the length of contract that they did. Yeah. And I do think, that the ownership shouldn't necessarily carry the can for those decisions, because I think the manager has pushed for some of those.
I think the problem is with Liverpool at the moment is the fact that FSG are businessmen and businessmen only. They've come here, they've taken over a club, a sleeping giant at the time, £300 million they paid for it. Always had the potential to go to the top. Always had the potential to go to the top. With the most successful club in England, apart from Man United, the biggest club in England. I'd say maybe on level par in recent years as well. And I don't want to say it, but I think they've used us in a way. They've used us to build a portfolio up. They've used us to make the money to then go increase their portfolio. And that's when they bought the Boston, the Penguins, and they're looking at an NBA
side. Was before they took over Liverpool? Their brand itself, outside of Liverpool, like Drew, I know you will have, but I mean, like a lot of people now, like football is like everyone knows it. Their brand itself now, even like their other businesses will thrive.
They'll be booming. They'll be booming.
That's what I mean. Like say we're worth $4 billion now. They've times the money by 10 already. We deserve for them to spend some of their own money. They're going to sell eventually, and they're going to make a load of money. We deserve
exactly. I got told once by when I said about the ownership not spending nothing. I got told once that I said, look, they're using us as a cash cow, and they made so much money off us. And I got told by one guy, these adamant people that FSG have not done anything wrong. He said that FSG have not made any money off Liverpool. I think an ownership of an
asset that's worth $4 billion.
Years. He's been an owner for 13 years of the Liverpool Football Club. If he ain't making the money in 13 years, then he's gone. He'd have been gone.
People don't see the bigger picture. They don't see that, and like, not many businessmen have money sitting in the bank. They have assets. He literally owns a football club that's worth $3 or $4 billion, and SFG itself, like, they're getting the likes of LeBron James and that invested into them because of the brands that they've got and the things that are coming off, like the little spider legs coming off at SFG, like the different things they own.
It's getting bigger.
Exactly, and they're doing that because of, not just because of us, but we're a massive part of it. You know what I mean? We're making them money, whether they sell us or not. Because when you're at that point of being that rich, you don't have to have cash. You don't have to have money in the bank. Your assets alone are enough for you to get whatever you want. And the more, the more we go up in value, or the more SFG goes up in value, the more powerful they become. And we're in a position now where I seen someone comment about it yesterday, regarding Man United, like how many people can afford to buy these big clubs, because that's why we're seeing a lot of state-backed bids and stuff like that, the likes of Qatar with them. And I get that now with Liverpool, but
there's quite a lot, There's actually a lot more than people think. There's a lot more people that can afford. I've gone through a lot of people. There's a lot of people that's owning other clubs as well. There's, I think it's New York City's owner is richer than most.
Yeah.
There's one quite low down. I don't know if it's. I've got Reading in my head for some reason. I don't think it is Reading, but someone like that, in the Championship club. There's plenty out there that will buy Liverpool. I'm telling you.
I'm not saying that they wouldn't. I just think that we're in a position now where I think Man United, I think they definitely wanted to sell us, by the way. I think they were last, when was it, October? I reckon they weren't just, putting the feelers out. If Man United didn't get put up a couple of weeks after us for sale, I think we'd be in a position they're in now, or probably done, sold. I don't believe they just want. That's another thing that annoys me. I want the investment, but the fact that, again, they're not willing to put their own money in their own hand in the pocket. They want someone else to fund what we need.
And no one's going to do that. No one's going to come in and pay for transfers. Not unless you see an out somewhere. Yeah. Well, I did there then, lads. Whether we buy 3 midfielders, 2 midfielders, or no more midfielders, we're going to be here as much as we can talking about the lack of spending or the massive spending that FSG somehow do. Is the budget going to be 10 million? Is the budget going to be 250 million? All we know, it's going to be an interesting summer. It's going to be a summer that is going to determine the fan base, I think, as well. I think it's going to determine a lot of minds in the fan base. I'd say about, and I don't know about Drew and Neil. I know they've supported FSG a little bit, but I think even they're coming to terms with it a little bit as much. Well, you're not FSG owners, are you? Not as adamant as others.
I think they, over the years, have made some very poor decisions, which have been well documented. I think they've done some good things in terms of the infrastructure around the club. I think we're at a tipping point, and I think they're at a tipping point. For me, we need to invest in the team this summer. Otherwise, the value of their club might find that the value of their club decreases. So, I'm not an FSG in. I'm not an FSG out. I think we're at a critical point in time now where something needs to change.
That's what I think it is. This is the tipping point now.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't go right this summer, I can see really turning on towards.
I'd be worried for Klopp if it doesn't go right next season. I don't mean for him getting sacked, by the way. I think if we end up with a season like this season next season, I love the man. I want him to stay. I want him to sign a new contract. It would not surprise me if he just thinks, you know what, I've done all I can do with what you're giving me.
Yeah. And if that were to happen, just watch this fan base. Watch this fan base. And I don't forget, I'm keeping people accountable, by the way, for this, what's gone on. I don't forget. And it's so frustrating. It's so frustrating. I know it's only short in the window. As I said earlier, me and Neil write these reports every single season. We're writing the same reports every single year. We're writing again about investment coming in. The timing of it is ridiculous, by the way. It's continuous. It's exactly the same last season. At the same time, investment coming in, nothing happened.
He got it last time with Redbird, didn't he? But it was into SFG, and what did we see of that? Nothing.
Nothing. I think it's the PR. I just be careful of the reports. I also be excited about transfers.
Yeah.
You know, I was excited about transfers when I was 6. I didn't really care about the owners back then. I didn't know who the owners of Liverpool was when I was 6. But I was excited about transfers. A new season's coming up, and all we can do is get behind the boys on the pitch, but still don't forget where the blame lies if something goes wrong. We need to keep. I said it last season. I can't believe I'm saying it again. We need to keep this foot on FSG, because as soon as we take our foot off, we're in trouble. And I said the exact same words after the Champions League final last year. Exact same words, and I stand by it. Thank you everyone for coming on. Thanks Nathan. Thanks Neil. Thanks Drew. Absolute pleasure to have you on. And Neil, nice to see you again. Nathan, nice to see you for the first time. Drew, a pleasure as always. Thank you everyone. This has been LLC Transfer Room, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Brilliant videos coming out soon. Good night.